Good morning, everybody. I pray you had a beautiful weekend. I recently had shared some pictures on Facebook of my weekend with my family, and someone wrote a comment and said, y'all look so happy. And I really started thinking about that. It really stirred something in my heart about happiness. And, the Bible has a lot to say about joy and happiness and contentment. And actually, 1 Timothy says, but godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain we can carry nothing out. And I've often heard people say, I've never seen a U-Haul behind a hearse, and that is true. And I think about the pursuit of happiness, and I think about the obsession our society has with, my right to be happy. Even our Declaration of Independence declares that it is all of our inalienable right to pursue happiness. And I think about people I've met along this journey of life who that is their goal. That is their main goal of life is I deserve to be happy. I have a right to be happy. And, God forbid anybody get in their way. I have seen people trampled underfoot if, they try to tamper with that pursuit in any way. But, I'm a firm believer that contentment isn't getting always, what we want, but a lot of times it is the satisfaction of what we have. And I think that a lot of people maybe miss the mark in this area and go about it all wrong because true happiness today seems to be a rare commodity. And I've seen people in their pursuit of happiness, they will spend themselves into financial ruin in an attempt to capture it. But it seems that sometimes the harder they try, the more futile their quest is to get to that place. And I really believe there's something that all of us need to remember as we go around looking for this pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. But, there is no guarantee. Life gives us very little guarantees about many things. And happiness is a very interesting concept for many of us. And I want you to think about something this morning. I want to ask you, what is it that would make you happy? Is it money? Is it friends? Is it a big house? Um, is it the perception of others that you are successful? Does that bring you a sense of happiness? And I think a huge reason why many people are so desperately unhappy is that they've really never taken the time to discover what it would truly be that would make them happy. And chances are, if I ask someone right now what it would be, they'd probably just list one of the things that I just mentioned, for the simple reason that they've really never given any credence or any significant time to thinking about what would make them happy. And I think about the fact that, a successful person by our society standards isn't necessarily a happy person. And that has been so true in the people that I've met. But I believe conversely that a successful person is always a happy person by the Bible standards. And we have bought into this lie that, if we don't drive the latest car or have the biggest home or, the clothes or, and all those things are wonderful. But I believe that we must get to a point where we understand that material things will never be part of the equation for producing happiness. And the Lord's even shown me on so many levels that, Amory, less is more. Because your happiness has nothing to do with your possessions, your environment, even your day-to-day circumstances. Your happiness, to be true happiness, it has to come from a source that's independent of all those influences. Genuine happiness is a state of contentment. It's a peace of mind. It's a sense of well-being regardless of outward circumstances going on in your life and my life. And I believe, and I take this from the Bible, that the main ingredient to your happiness is contentment. And Paul speaks about it in Philippians 4:10. And Paul was a man of few friends. He had no possessions. He was serving a jail term and basically a death sentence. But he says this, he goes, I rejoice in the Lord greatly, for I have learned in whatsoever state I am in to be content. I know how to be abased and I know how to abound. I know to have everywhere and in all things, to be full and to be hungry, to abound in blessings and to suffer need. And then he says, I can do all things through Christ Jesus who strengthens me. Paul learned to be content. His contentment was the number one ingredient to this elusive thing that we pursue called happiness. So how do we learn to be content? First of all, one of the first things that we have to do that will undermine a feeling of happiness or contentment is to stop comparing our life, ourselves, our possessions with other people. There are always going to be people with more talent, beauty, money, etc. But if we keep looking at that and being a measuring stick and using that as a measuring stick, then we are going to always walk under a cloud of unhappiness. I think that contentment comes when we resolve in our hearts that there are things that you and I cannot change. I think there's, to a certain degree, many of us are control freaks. We like to be in control. We don't like the uncertainty of life. And so we try to wrap our hands, our lives around, these things. But there comes a time that all of us have to reconcile that, you know what, Lord, I don't have control in this area. And so I'm going to just put my complete trust in you and my life in your hands. And I think another huge part of contentment and happiness has to be our faith. And I believe it comes from a source, and his name is Jesus. And the word says, the joy of the Lord is my strength. And so it clearly tells us it's not dependent on our bank accounts and things that we have and things that we don't have. You know, in the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus showed us the highway to happiness. He promises everyone that faithfully walks with him will possess a happiness that the world can never take away. And so I just want to encourage you today to think on these things, ponder these things in your heart. I bless you today. I'm praying for you. I love you all so much, and I will talk to you soon.